Good morning again and welcome to day 3 of FormsViewer training. I'm Joanne and I'm a tester at Qdabra. Also here with me is Kirby and again will be your host for today. We're switching from our camping theme to cafe theme now. So we hope that you all had your morning coffee. And before we start, let me just check all of the participants list. Looks like we've got 9 people on board. Really glad that you can make it to day 3. So we've sent out a package today for day 3 and we've also included the link of day 2 recording. We hope that you did get to download the package. If not, please let us know. Again, we have some really exciting features to demo today. But before we begin, we'd like to start off with a review of day 2. So if you don't mind, can you please take a moment and read the questions in my slide? Then I'll just pick someone in the participants list to answer the question. So for question number 1, what QRules command can you use to submit data to a list? Let's see. Shane, do you know what command we used yesterday for submitting data to list?
Yep, submit to SharePoint list.
Wow. Sorry to put you on the spot there, but yeah, exactly. That's the command that we used, and we used that also in conjunction with the refresh SharePoint list items command in order for you to refresh your items in your forms. So yeah, wonderful. Number 2 is how do you create a mapping in FormsViewer? Let's see, can we ask Sam?
I might be able to answer
Okay.
that. I'm not saying I'm Kathy. We use DBXL, and that seems to be also in FormsViewer the same functionality as DBXL to create the mapping.
Yeah, we have a new functionality added in FormsViewer, this SharePoint list mapping tab, where you can add multiple mappings to different SharePoint lists. You can add a parent mapping as well as a child mappings under that parent. So when you use that SharePoint list mappings tab, it will inject a mapping XML in your forms, and that will be used by the QRules commands to map data to your lists. And the next question is, thanks for that, Kathy. Thanks for answering that question. And next is, how can you customize your form layout with the CSS? Joe, can you answer that question?
I will try. You would use the load resources command in FormsViewer with a CSS sheet.
Perfect. Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Yeah, so we provided you a styles.css file in lab 3, I think, or lab 2 from yesterday. And yes, you will use the load resource command in order for you to load that styles.css file. And it's very easy to build the command, right? If you're not familiar with the command, you can just go to the Forms Viewer Designer, go to the Command Builder tab and search for load resource. And in that tab, you can see information about the command and the parameters that you'll need to put in the command. So yeah, thanks, Joe. Next is what keyrows commands to use when you want to insert, delete rows in a repeating table. And this is the lab that Kirby showed you from yesterday, lab 3. Let's see, Alicia, do you remember that lab?
Good morning. I actually missed that one.
Okay, I think she lost audio. While waiting for her to fix her audio, can someone else answer? Logan, do you know how to add that insert and delete rows? Or do you remember that lab from yesterday?
This is Donald. I'm doing an open book test here, so I went back to the PDF. I know that it's concatenating some delete rules and some count rules and some insert rules with graphics. But in order, I mean, I'm not exactly sure what in what order, but I know that they're all involved in taking a repeating table and having it expand just with the plus sign except and delete except with the minus sign except for the first row. But I'd have to go through step by step in order to figure that out. But it's just attaching code to the graphics that were inserted. I don't know if that answers the question, but
Yeah, that's perfect, Donald. Thank you. Yeah, so Kirby showed you how to add picture buttons in the repeating table to replace the default widgets in the repeating table. So you see in InfoPath, if you drag a repeating table in your form canvas, it has this default insert item widget. If you right click on that table, there's properties and you can uncheck that property. So that is what we're replacing in that lab. We're using, like Donald said, we're using images, graphics now to replace those default widgets, and we're using the insert and delete commands in keyrules. We added the insert in the plus button there, and uh, Donald was correct. He mentioned the concat um, function there, where we're concatenating the insert and the other parameters that you need to add in the command, and then we added the delete command in the delete button. So if you have some time to review that lab, you can. Thanks, Donald. And then last is, what value does the auto log out or auto save XTP provides? So this is the last lab from yesterday. Emma, can you answer that question?
Yeah, I can do that. Good morning, everyone. So
Morning.
auto logout and auto save gives us the ability to determine how long a form will remain open without any activity from the user. And we can define a prompt that will appear that will ask them if they're still using the form. And then we can define how long we want that prompt to remain active on the screen. And then we can set the form to autosave before we close it so that we don't have all of these forms remaining open on all of our users' computers.
Perfect. Wow. I really appreciate remembering all of the steps there and mentioning that you can set the time when the overlay is displaying. You can also edit the seconds there. And Kirby demoed that in Lab 4 yesterday. Thank you, Emma. Okay, so that's a review of day 2. I hope some of you are able to run them. If not, then maybe if you have time this week, just go to the labs and uh, follow the steps if you can. Yeah. Okay. For day 3, we have some very exciting features to show you. We have generate PDF. Uh, Lab 1 is about generating the PDF copy of your form, because there are times when you need to print a PDF copy. Maybe you need to save it in your Google Drive or send it as an attachment in email. And this has become possible with the use of the render form command. And some of you may have already tried it out in QRules. It gives you the option to select a view that you want to render as a PDF. And the command also allows you to open the PDF in the browser or download the PDF to your local machine. So there are lots of options there. Then the next lab is about uploading file attachments to a SharePoint document library. And this is in conjunction with lab 1. After you generated the PDF, some people want the PDF to be saved in a SharePoint document library. So we'll be using another command called save to SharePoint. We use that together with the render form command. And we also use that in our expense report internally, because we generate a PDF copy of our expense reports and save those PDF copy in a document library. Yeah, so those are for labs 1 and 2. And then for the last lab, we're going to discuss how you can add a smartphone authentication to your forms using our Authy XTP. And I'm not sure if any one of you has used Twilio before, but Twilio's Authy lets you easily build an additional measure of security into your login or verification process with two-factor authentication. And we created this XTP for you to be able to easily add that two-factor authentication in your form. And we're going to show you that in Lab 3. For today's demos, for a change, Kirby will start with Lab 1 for the render form command and Lab 2 for save to SharePoint. And then we'll have a 10-minute break. After the break, I will discuss the Authy XTP. So I hope you're all ready. And Kirby, are you ready to demo Lab 1?
Yes.
I'll make you presenter.
Okay. So can you see my screen now? Yes. Okay, thanks. So hi everybody. So for lab 1 of day 3, I'm going to show you how you can generate a PDF copy of your form. So let me show you the end form for this lab. Here I'm in FormsViewer and I've already uploaded the end form for lab 1 render form. So I'm just going to open that form and okay, so let's add some data here before submitting. Let's also attach a receipt and amount, and then let's click submit. All right, so as you can see, a PDF was generated after clicking that submit button. And here we're actually printing a view in the expense report form that is specifically designed for generating the PDF. So let's look at the starter form, and I'm going to show you exactly how to add the generate PDF feature. So here I am in the package, and I'm going to open the starter form in InfoPath Designer. And I'm going to show you first the view. Okay, so this is the current view here. So we have the PDF view that we're rendering as PDF. And to add the rules, you have to go to Form Logic, and under Actions, there's already a node here called Generate PDF that we've provided in the form. And you need to add an action that will use the render form command. So let's name it as render form as PDF. So before adding the action here, let's build the render form command in FormsViewer. So to do that, let's go to the design, FormsViewer design here. I mean Forms Designer, and under the command builder, let's search for render form command. And as you can see, the required parameter for the render form is the format parameter, which by default has the value PDF. And here it lets us add the name of the view that we want to render. So the name of that view is PDF. So let's put that in here. And as in the output, the default value for that is base 64. So let's retain that value there. And we can also set how we want to render the PDF, if we want to open it in a browser or if we want to automatically download it. So for this one, let's just select the browser. So after building the command, let's copy that to clipboard and go back to the rule, and let's set the value of the Qdabra rules command node to have that command that we just built. So click OK. And once the command is run, QRules will return the PDF file as the output. And since we will upload the PDF to a document library in SharePoint later in the next lab, we need that file to be placed into a field, specifically a file attachment field in the main data source. So here we've added a field called the form file field in order to store the PDF file in the form. So after that, let's go back to our form logic, go back to the generate PDF node, and we will add another rule that will save the PDF to the form file field that I just showed you. So let's add another rule, and let's call it save PDF to form file field. So let's do that. Let's set that field in the main data source, form file, and select the result node in Qdabra rules. All right, So, and lastly, we're going to add a trigger in the submit logic to generate the PDF. So under submit, let's add a generate PDF rule here before submitting the form to our library. So click action and generate, let's call the rule generate PDF. And then we're going to set the node, the generate PDF node to go. All right, so that's how you set the render form command in your form to generate the PDF, a PDF copy of your form. You also have the option to, as I've said earlier, you also have the option to download the PDF, to automatically download the PDF if you don't want to open it in the browser after submit. So that's by changing the value of the open parameter to download. And the render form also provides a way for you to add some header and footer text in the PDF. Say, for instance, you have a form that you want to render as PDF that has multiple pages, and you want to add page numbers to those pages. So what you can do is add values to the footer parameters here, like the footer font. You can also indicate the font name, the font size, and also the text. So let's try to do that right now. So I have here, oops, sorry. I have here, okay, let me just close the other tabs here. So I have here the some text for the footer. So if you hover over the information icon beside the parameter, you can see its description. So it says text to use for footer. So we have placeholders like the current page and the page count. So let's use this for our text. So page, the current page as our placeholder of the page count. So, and then that value is automatically added in here in our command. So let's just copy that again, and let's change the command in here. So paste, and then let's save that, and let's try to upload the form. And let's see if it's going to work. So we're expecting that after submit, the PDF will automatically download, and it's going to have some footer text. So let's just add some random text for now. And the receipt, and then let's click submit. All right, so as you can see, the PDF automatically downloaded. So let's click that and check if we have the footer. So there we go. So as you can see, it automatically detects the page for the PDF here. So yeah, that's it for implementing the render form in the expense report form. So do you have any questions about this render form command?
Yeah, hi, this is Alicia. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Hi, Alicia.
Hi there. I do have
Yeah.
a question. What could you use this tool if you wanted to have the ability to open a form as PDF? Not all the time, but like if a user wants to, like maybe a button at the bottom that says open as PDF as an option if somebody wants to export the form as a PDF on a one-off
Yeah.
basis.
Yeah, you can definitely add a button to a form, and you can add the same rules to that button, and it will automatically generate the PDF uh, for you. And you can specify the view there, as we've seen earlier. So you can specify the view that you want to render as PDF. So yeah, that's possible. And did I answer your question?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
I could see in this expense report example where you'd want a PDF every time, but I can think of specific forms that we use that maybe is only needed for audit purposes. So it wouldn't be something we would want every time, but having the
Yeah.
as needed. So yeah, perfect.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for that question. So any other questions?
This is Kathy. There's nothing else that needs to be done anywhere else to create the PDFs, nothing on the server, nothing, a folder somewhere that has to be placed like we've done in the past. This is this is all it takes.
Sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing your voice. Can you repeat that again?
No question. I'll just review this. I just thought that there might be some other thing that you need to do on the server. In the past, we've had like a folder that we had to place there where the PDFs would reside, and then they would pick them up and turn them off. So all that's been replaced with this functionality. Is that correct?
Hi, Kathy. This is
Hi.
Joanne. I think that because you have DBXL, maybe you're pertaining to the email mapping in DBXL where your forms are generated also in PDF format. And I think that is a separate feature. This one is using Q rules. So we're using the command and Q rules to render the form as PDF. But if you have DBXL, you that's a different way to generate the PDF. So yeah, you can also do that. You can do either way.
This would be only for the forms that you converted into using FormsViewer. But the older InfoPath forms need to continue to use DBXL, or could they also use this much better technology?
For older forms, we can convert your older forms to FormsViewer, and we can use this modern technique using the render form command to generate the PDF for you. But if you want to retain that email mapping that you have for your doc type in DBXL, you can also retain that.
I'm ready to move over. Thank you for the explanation.
Yeah. Thanks, Kathy. So, any other questions? Okay, so I guess we can now proceed with the next lab. So for lab 4, I'm gonna just remove, oops. All right, so I'm just gonna remove these tabs. All right, so for the next lab, for lab 4, our goal is to upload the attachments in the expense report form to SharePoint. So we have 2 attachments in the expense report form. So the first one is the PDF file that we just generated earlier and saved into the form file field. And the other one is a receipt, so which the users can attach to each expense item. And we want to store those files in a document library in SharePoint. So we created a document library in our test site here called attachments. And this is where we're going to upload those files.
So now I'm going to show you how that feature works. So in here, I have the end form for lab 4. And again, let's open that end form. And our goal is to upload those files upon submit. So again, let's fill out the fields. Let's add a receipt and amount and click submit. And then after this submission, form submission, again, we're going to see that the PDF is generated with the link here of the receipt and also the image of the receipt. So if we go to the attachments document folder and a document library and refresh that, you're going to see that there's a folder that has been created with the name of our expense report. And this is because we want to organize the files for each form submitted. And inside this folder, there's the PDF file and also the receipt that we just attached. So if we click this one, this is the PDF one, PDF file. And oops, sorry. Let's go back to our attachments document library. And the other file is our receipt, the receipt that we just attached. So now if we open the expense report that we just submitted in the library, so let's go to our expense report library. You'll see here, okay, let me just get the most recent one. So it's the last one, this one. So you're gonna see that the receipt was replaced with a link to SharePoint. So here. And if we click that link, it's going to direct us to, it's going to direct us to its location in SharePoint. So if we click that, you're going to see the receipt. And this is the path of that receipt in SharePoint. So this technique is possible with the use of the Save to SharePoint command for uploading the attachments to SharePoint, and also the Create SharePoint folder command for creating the folders in the document library. One advantage of using the Save to SharePoint command is that it reduces the size of the form by saving out the attachments to a document library and replacing them with links. That way, if the user opens the submitted form, it's going to load faster because the form size is reduced. So now I'm going to show you how to apply this technique to the expense report form. So let's go back to our lab package, go to lab 2, save to SharePoint, and let's open the starter form in the InfoPath Designer. Okay, let's just close this first one. All right, so next is let's go to the same node, this generate PDF, and under the reset self rule here, let's create a new rule called create SharePoint folder. So after that, we're going to set the attachments folder name, which is under the main data source, with the name of our expense report. So let's go to expense details report and click report name. So that's going to be the name of our folder, which which is going to be generated after the form is submitted. So after that, we're going to create another action to use the create SharePoint folder. So let's go to Qdabra rules again, data source, and click command. And for the create SharePoint folder, we're just going to copy the one that is provided in the lab guide. So let's go here. And all right, so here in step 5, let's copy the SharePoint folder command and add it using the function button here. And in here, you're going to see that the create SharePoint folder has the name parameter. So it's going to be the attachments folder. You have to replace that with the actual field from the main data source. So select the attachment folder as well as the site URL of our SharePoint. So replace that with the one that is provided or is being retrieved in our XTP logic dynamic DCS. So under environment, click the SharePoint site URL node. And then we're also setting the library name, which is the attachments document library. So click OK. So that command or the create SharePoint folder is the one that is creating the folder in our attachments document library. So next is we're going to create a new rule called upload PDF to document library. Upload PDF to. And in this, okay, let's move this down. So in this rule, we're going to add a condition. So let's click this link here and let's add a condition if form file is not blank. So the form file is in the main data source. So as you remember, the form file is where we store the PDF file. So if the form file is not blank, meaning there's a PDF file attached in the form, and another condition, if QRules link is blank. So let me just go back to this node in this folder, and under form file, click QRules link, and if QRules link is blank. So QRules link is an attribute field that QRules uses to store the link of the attachment after it's uploaded to SharePoint. So if it's blank, it means that the attachment has not been uploaded yet. So as you can see, there's another attribute here called QRules file name. So this is where QRules stores the file name of the attachment. So okay, that's it for the conditions. And then next, we're going to add an action to use the save to SharePoint command. So go to Qdabra rules and again set the command node and go back to our lab guide here. All right, so in step 3, let's copy this one, this command. Okay, so we're going to replace again the other text here, like the SharePoint site URL, to point to our or the actual SharePoint site URL for the URL parameter, and we're also concatenating the attachments, which is pertaining to the attachment document library, and the attachment folder, which is under the main data source. And for the XPath, we're selecting the XPath for the form file. So just click OK. And next, we're going to add a new rule new rule for uploading the receipts to the document library. So receipts to, again, we're going to do the same thing, but this time we're going to point to the field for our receipts in the main data source. So go to the main data source and add a condition if files is not blank. So the files field is under the repeating table, item repeating table. Click files if it's not blank, and if the Q rules for that field is blank. Q rules link is blank, meaning it's not yet uploaded to SharePoint. Then we will upload that. So let's again use the save to SharePoint command, copy from the lab guide, and we're going to replace again the text here, attachment folder. All right. And then we're going to move this up after the create SharePoint folder. Right, so that we have the SharePoint link of the attachment before rendering the form as PDF. That way, the link will be available in the PDF as well. So that's how you use the save to SharePoint command and also the create SharePoint folder command in your form. So yeah, that's it for the demo for lab 4. Any question? I mean for lab 2. Any questions so far in using using both commands?
Is it possible to render a PDF and also send to a list? Is that a fairly easy thing to do if we want to look at it in a list and have it archived in PDF?
So the question is, you want to upload the PDF to a list?
No, have the PDF in a library somewhere. I understood that. But is it also possible at the same time to send the information in some sort of a list form that can be looked at and use the list features?
Sorry, I can't.
Is it possible to send it to a list and have columns and fields in a list format as well? And I missed the first hour yesterday, so I might have missed this.
Sorry, I really can't hear the audio well. John, did you? Hello?
Maybe Kathy was asking if we can send the file in a list format. Oh yeah, now I get it. Maybe Kathy was asking about if we can use this in list forms, because maybe she's using list forms.
I use both, but I use PDFs to archive information like forms or incident reports, and I keep that for historical information. And then I have everything in a list to make sure everybody who approved it, in case it gets stuck and someone doesn't approve it, I see it in a list and I can kind of help remind people if they haven't approved things. And the last step of our form is to create a PDF. So I was just wondering if it can go to both places. Like you can send to a list and you can also generate a PDF. Is that possible with like an extra rule or something?
I guess we've already used the render PDF, I mean render form command in a list form. We actually have a webinar about that, and I'm gonna find that later for you to look. So yeah, but for the save to SharePoint, I haven't tried that in a list form. Do you know, Joanne, if we can use that in
Saving the files to a list. I'm not sure, but we can save data. We can submit data to a list using submit to SharePoint lists. And Kathy was asking about some, what she mentioned about approvals at the end, and then sending the form or the PDF copy of the form after approval. So I guess there's some workflow there. Maybe we can research about that, Kathy, and we'll take the question offline.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks.
all right. So any other questions for lab 2 before we proceed with the next lab? Okay, so I guess that's it for lab 1 and 2 for this day. Joanne?
Yeah. So I'm going to share the summary for the labs, so you can talk about the summary.
Okay, so for lab 1, I've showed you how to generate a PDF copy of the expense report form. So you can actually convert your form to a PDF and you can share it with others. You can also use that to attach to an email in your workflow if you want. And for the steps, you need to have or you need to create a PDF view of your form. You also need to use a render form command, and we also save that PDF file that is uh, generated by Q rules to a uh, form file for in a file type field. And in next step is that we added a trigger in the submit button to generate the PDF. You can also, if you want, you can also use a button to generate the PDF. So next for lab 2, we've discussed about the save to SharePoint. Next slide, please. So we've discussed about how to use the save to SharePoint command as well as the create SharePoint folder. With these commands, we can organize our file attachments from our form, and we can also reduce the size of our form so that it opens faster, and we can actually have the links or replace the file attachments in the form with links to SharePoint. So for the steps, we've created an attachments document library where we want to upload the files and use the create SharePoint folder for creating the folders in the library, and also the save to SharePoint command to upload the PDF and receipts.
Thanks, Kirby. So we're going to have a quick break and we're going to be back after 10 minutes. So see you again at 11:05 a.m. Eastern, 8:05 a.m. Pacific. Thank you. Welcome back to day 3 of FormsViewer training. So the next demo is about adding smartphone authentication using Authy XTP. I hope you're all ready. Okay, so I'm going to start with my demo. Kirby, can you hear me fine?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So Twilio's Authy lets you easily build an additional measure of security into your login or verification process with two-factor authentication. And using the Twilio's Authy Authenticator app on your mobile device, uh, if you can quickly search on Google Play and search for Authy, it's free to install. You can increase your security because that will uh, send the code and will help your users protect their accounts uh, with this Authy XTP. And the instructions for that XTP is in this lab. So I'm opening the PDF copy of lab 3. So it says here that before you start, you need to have a Twilio account and have created an Authy API application. And we have included a link here, and it will direct you to the Twilio site with the Authy API documentation. And it says here that to start working with the API, first create an application in the console and get the API key. So I just logged in my Twilio account and I went to their products and I selected Authy here. Here I can create applications. So you can enter or create a new application. Say create. And after creating your Authy API, under settings, properties, you'll see the production API key. And this is hidden, so you'll click this icon here to view your production API key. So copy that because you're going to need that to add in our XTP later. So that's one requirement, having a Twilio account and Authy API key. And then, like I mentioned, you can install the Authy app from Google Play or the Apple Store and download that to your mobile phone or tablet. So in the lab folder, we've included a user's STP file here. You're going to need that because users will be registering using the Authy authentication XTP, and then those registered users will be submitted to that users list. So just like what we did in day 1, if you remember, we provided STP files for the expense reports lists. So you're going to do the same for this users list. Just go to your root site and click the gear icon, go to site settings, and under the web designer galleries, click list templates and click files and upload a document and browse to that user's STP or .stp and upload that. I have already uploaded that in our site, so it's already available in my tenant. So if I go to the site where I'm working on, the training site, if I go plus new, inside contents, select app, search for the users list. Now, this is the one I'm looking for. I'll click on that. I'll type users. Make sure to use this name exactly because the Authy XTP will search for that list and click create. So I'm not going to do that again because I've already added the custom list in this training site. After adding that users list, you're gonna see that you have this custom list added with the columns that the Authy XTP requires. So it requires that the users list has an email column, phone column, first name column, last name column, and Authy ID. And if you don't want to run that upload STP steps, then you can go and create the STP or the users list from scratch. So just go to your site contents and create a custom list from scratch. But we're providing this list for you in order for to be easier for you to deploy this solution in your site. And also take note that when creating the columns, if you need to create this users list from scratch, you need to add a space or just copy the columns as is. So this is having space in between first and name. So that's really important to use the columns as is. Next. So we've already done that part. So now we're going to add the Authy XTP in the starter form. So the lab folder has a starter form. Right click and select design to open an info path designer. And so we need to add the XTP as custom control. So by now, maybe you're already familiar on how to add the XTP or the XTP as custom controls to your forms because we've already provided XTPs in the previous labs for you. So just add them as custom controls. And it's already here. I'm going to remove it. So select template part, browse to the Qdabra XTP from the lab 3 folder in day 3. Click open, finish, close. Okay, so now you have that Qdabra Authy XTP under your custom controls. And then go to page design. So in page design, click new view and name your view Authy. Click OK. And when you create new views in InfoPad, it will add default tables. So just remove them. And then we're going to add the XTP in the view. So go back to the Home tab and you need to click on this. Take note that when you click on the XTP control under custom controls, it will add the data source of the XTP in your Forms data source. So it's like injecting an external data source in your form, and then it will add any other resource file that it has. So you can, we advise on only adding it once, because if you add it twice in your form, you're gonna have duplicate data sources for that XTP. Okay, so click on it. And when you add it in your view, you're gonna have this section. And actually, I have revised our Authy XTP so that it's a little bit more organized now. The calculated values you see here, I'm not displaying that in the view. I have a formatting rule to hide it all the time. So I'm just placing that so that I know where to click on the sections. So before anything else, I want to save this form as my end form. I don't want to overwrite the starter form. Okay. See the data source here. Okay, so as you can see, those data connections with underscore Qdabra Authy in it is added or injected by the Authy XTP. So there are some query data connections here, which is querying from the user's list, and some other XML files like this get Authy ID and mapping XML file. Okay, and you also have this Authy group here added in your main data source. So don't mind the other data sources, but remember, always remember that we're going to always use this secondary data source called Authy request underscore Qdabra Authy. So that's where all the centralized rules for the Authy XTP are located. So the first thing you're gonna add is add a rule under finished loading. So I just switched to the Qdabra rules data source here, and I selected finished loading. So I remember we've been using this node here to run some of our unload rules. So we're going to add another rule here that I'll call run Authy. Okay, then I'm going to select the add button here and select set a field's value. Then for the field box, let's select, again, remember the Authy request underscore Qdabra Authy. So select that. expand actions and select the run unload field under the actions group and set that to the value go. So we're just basically saying that on form load, we want Authy to run and run the rules under that field. So next, in this field, run on load, you'll see a set API key rule. And this is, you need to edit this rule and place your own Authy API key. So when you created your Twilio account and created the Authy API, like I showed you a while ago, you're gonna paste the API key here. So let me just get my API key, paste it there, click OK. Then another thing that we always do for XTPs, we're pointing the temp command node to the actual QRules command, because we can't inject QRules in the XTP itself. So we're just using placeholder fields to set the command, the QRules commands. But then when you inject your XTP to your forms, you need to repoint that to the actual QRules command. So for the field here, I just click the first action here. So I selected temp command, and there's only one rule here that says set QRules fields. I select this first action here, and I select the actual QRules command, which is this field. Okay, and then select the second action, and here saying that you need to replace or point it to the actual Qdabra result field. So I'll select that result field there. Okay, so far, let's save our changes. See, I'm just scrolling down here in the documentation. So we've already done that. We've set the run unload to go. Then we've pointed the temp command fields in the XTP to use the actual command and result nodes in QRules. Okay, so the next step is to add a switch view action. So remember that you created a new view, right? So the Authy XTP is in separate view from the expense report. So we need to add a switch view rule in the verify button, so that when the user is verified, when he entered the correct code, then we will allow him to access the form. And so we need to add a switch view here. So it's also an action. In info path, there's a switch view. So click that, and we're going to switch to the expense report view. Saving. So as per editing the form logic, I think that's about it. And then what I want to do is replace this with a logo. So we're providing the XTP for you to insert that in your forms. And this is a place where you can insert a logo for your company and just making that smaller. And then I'm just making some UI adjustments here. So whatever you see fit, then you can do that. So you need to, of course, remove these instructions that is added by default when you injected the XTP. So you might be confused because we provided a lab for this XTP, but the XTP also has its own instruction here. So for now, just ignore this instruction that is added in the view because we've provided some other details in the lab, and we've also provided the user's STP for you as well. So just ignore this XTP instructions, but as always, that's the general instructions for the XTP. So you can always use that for other forms. So I just deleted the instructions. We don't need to display that in the form view. Okay. And then I'm going to select this table cell. So you see that the section or the XTP section is inside a table cell. I'm going to press Ctrl X in my keyboard and place the cursor at the center and right click on it and select Keep Source Formatting to paste it. And then just make sure that all rules are intact when you select the buttons. The rules are still there. Okay. And remove this section, the template part section, you don't need that. And then save your changes. Okay, then lastly, go to page design, select properties for the view, and make this Authy view default. So check this box, set as default view. So we want the Authy view to be shown as default. And save that. Did I save it? Okay. And once you have that form finished, you're going to have something like this. See, let's just close this. Okay, so you see that the Authy XTP is inside in nice white box here. So we're trying to modernize the look of our form. So if you happen to visit other sites with, for example, login box or something like, I don't know, maybe, let's see, PayPal. Yeah, so you see that they're only providing a very simple format, like go to meeting. It's something like that. So we're following a, making it as much as possible look modern. So, uh, so for the functions, if it's your first time, if you're a first time user, so for example, you've sent a link of this form to an external user. In FormsViewer, there is an open form anonymous link, and this is an anonymous link that you can send to your external users. So external users meaning they don't have SharePoint accounts. So they will need to sign up, click sign up. And I'm going to fill it up, details. So in the Authy XTP, in the country code dropdown, we're providing this country codes. So if your country is not in here, you just need to add the value in the dropdown properties. So I'm selecting our country code, entering my mobile number. Okay. Okay. So it's just displayed that this confirmation message that my account is created. So that means that when I go to my users list here and I refresh that, so it created the account there. And I'm going to tap my Authy app in my mobile phone, and I'm going to enter the code here. Click verify. So just detected the right code. So I now have access to the form. So that's how we do two-factor authentication in FormsViewer using the Authy app. So let's say I'm already registered. So again, I'm going to click open form. So here, there's an instruction to enter your last name and the last 4 digits of your registered mobile number. So before, our Authy XTP is using email address, but now we've simplified it to use last name plus the last 4 digits of your mobile number. So it's easier to log in now. Going to log in. And again, I'm getting the code from my phone. Oops. Okay. So it's working perfect. And if you don't have the Authy app, there's an option here to text the code. So if you don't have the Authy app, just click this button and it will text a code in your phone. So just where'd my phone there? So entering the code 47344. Okay, so it works either way. So that's about it for lab 3. And in case that the form is not displaying like this, sometimes when you inject the XCP in the form and view it in the browser, sometimes the div ID that I added in the XSL for some reason is being removed. So if it's not displaying like this and it's stretched out, I've also added a troubleshooting section in the document, and you can follow this to edit the Authy XSL and add the div ID tag in the XSL file. So this is also another practice for CSS styling. So yeah, and then after fixing the Authy XSL, you can re-upload the form and see if it's fixed. Okay, so yeah, so we've just tested everything. Does anyone have any comments in this technique? Do you think it makes sense to add this to your forms? Happy?
I definitely will be using it. Thank you.
Oh, I thought you were trying to answer. Can I pick on someone? How about Caroline?
Yeah, I'm here, Joanne. What was the question again?
Do you have any comments in this technique? Do you think
No,
it's
I've seen it before.
Oh,
I haven't had a chance to use it yet, but very anxious to try it because we do have some users who do not have SharePoint accounts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this technique will help you reduce your licensing cost because the external users doesn't have to have accounts in SharePoint. And also, there's better security because they're using a code that was sent to their phones. And
This is Donald. I have a
Donald.
question. If they don't have access to SharePoint, which is on our internal network, then how would they be able to submit?
Yes, that's a good question. So, like I showed you earlier, FormsViewer provides this open anonymous button here. So if you click on that, copy the URL in a notepad, you'll see that it added a parameter here called fvanon equals to true. So that means that if this link is sent to your external users via email or via, say, Flow in SharePoint, they're going to have access to your forms even if they don't have accounts in your SharePoint. And then Authy will run. You will have them register here, and it will allow them to submit their data to your SharePoint site, which is the users list that I showed you. So even if they're not logged in, FormsViewer allows you to submit to the
Do
users
we have
list.
to have any
anonymously.
sort of server configuration to allow access externally? Or this takes care of that?
Actually, in the FormsViewer production version that we have now, the open form anonymous is always enabled for forms. So for forms admin, of course, only a site collection admin can access this. So you'll see that all form templates have this form open form anonymous enabled. But in our upcoming FormsViewer version, let me show you our test version of FormsViewer. We're gonna have a new checkbox here that allows you to allow that anonymous access for this form template. So right now in this form template, it is disabled because that checkbox is unchecked. But if I update it and check the box and update, this open form anonymous link will be enabled, and users will be able to access this form template with the FV anon parameter equals to true. And so to answer your question, they'll be able to submit data to your SharePoint list even if they have even if they are accessing the forms externally.
And if they're provided a link to a specific form, it would work the same way. They would just go through Authy and get to a particular form to approve it and then submit.
Yes, that will work as well. Thanks for that question, Donald. So does anyone else have any questions for this technique?
One, I guess we can send them the link, the anonymous link, so that they can try on their end if it works.
Maybe I can paste it in chat. Okay. Okay, so I just pasted the anonymous link of the expense report in, oops, sorry, in chat. So can you try that, access that from your machine, click on the link and see if Authy runs for you. Then I will refresh the users list here and see if someone has registered. You can see it here. Kirby, can you try it? Okay, so I can see that Shane has already registered. Shane, were you able to access the form?
Yeah, I'm in.
Thank you. Did you use the Authy app or just texted a code in your mobile phone?
The text. I don't have the Authy app.
Okay, good. So you might notice that when the expense report form loads, it might not set the resource name because we need to have some other form logic in order for the settings, the get user profile by name switch to the Authy logic. So, but it works, and this technique is really cool because it's better security. They're using a code that was sent to their phones and it's passwordless, so there's no need to store any passwords. And that's really the key because there's no password to be stolen. And also, Authy is sending the code to your users only when they need it. And if you just tried in the Authy app, the Authy codes only works at a certain amount of time. In my app, I think that it just allows me to copy the code in, looks like it's 10 seconds. So it's really fast. I need to copy the code really fast. So that's extra security there. See, let's refresh it again. See if other participants have already registered. Yep, so I've seen Caroline here. So yeah, so try the form or try the Authy technique and see if it works on your end. And I'm sure you're gonna love adding that Authy XTP in your forms. So I'm gonna go ahead and summarize this smartphone authentication technique for Lab 3. So the benefit is to provide a security measure for your forms. So passwordless logins means reduce license cost. You can send the anonymous links to your external users and they don't have to have SharePoint user accounts. So you're reducing cost remarkably. So for steps, this is just a summary of the steps that we did. Of course, you need to have a Twilio account and an Authy API key. And you need to add the user's STP in your site. If you don't want to add the user's STP and decides to build the user's STP from scratch, you can also do that, but make sure that all of the required columns as mentioned in the XTP instructions is added in your user's STP or custom list, sorry. And next, we created a separate view for the Authy XTP, and we added a rule in the finish loading to run the Authy form logic. So we set the run on load to go, and we specify the Authy API key in the form rules. So you need to get your Authy API key from the Twilio site, copy that, and add that in the run on load field where it says set your API key here. So it's one of the rules under that field. Then replace the temp commands with the Qdabra rules command and result fields. So as always, if you're using our XTPs, you need to repoint the temp commands to the actual Qdabra rules command and result fields in your forms. Then we added a switch view in the verify button. So we made the Authy XTP our default view so that it is showing first. And then if the user is verified, the code is correct, we allowed the form to switch to the expense reports view. And then we customized it a bit. We added our logo there. And yeah, so that's about it for Lab 3. So to summarize the day 3 class, we've learned a lot of techniques today. So for lab 1, Kirby showed you how to generate a PDF copy of your form. So she showed you how to use the render form command in order to generate a PDF copy. So one of the questions we had earlier was if it is it possible to not always generate the PDF. Yes, we can do that. Um, the sample or the demo that Kirby showed you is we added the render form in the submit logic. So it's included in the submit logic. So if you want to render your form as PDF separately, so you can add a different button that just run the render form plain as it is, so it will generate a PDF only when you need it. Okay, so after the rendering or generating PDF command, Kirby showed you how to upload file attachments to document libraries, and she showed you how to create or how to add the create SharePoint folder command to organize attachments with folders in a document library. And the benefit is to lessen the size of your form templates, because some of the form templates that we've seen, some of our customers are attaching really big files in their attachment fields. Like you have some big Excel attachments or Word attachments or picture files, you can reduce the size of your form by converting them to PDFs, and using Save to SharePoint, it will convert those attachments to links. So when users reopen the form, they just need to click on the link. So the actual attachment is not in putting a heavy load in your form. So, and lastly, we added a smartphone authentication using our Authy XTP, and we simplified the Authy XTP now by just using last name plus the last 4 digits of your mobile phone number. And this Authy XTP, the benefit is to provide a security measure for your forms. Passwordless logins means reduced license cost, and you can always send the anonymous links to your users, even through, say, via email, or if you're sending out email using Flow, you can include the anonymous link there, and external users can click on that link and Authy will run, so they can have access to your forms that way. Okay, so we wanted to ask if you have any comments, things that you've learned. We'd appreciate if you can share your thoughts here. What were your takeaways? Did you see anything that inspired you, or do you have any questions or feedback for us? So let's just go around the table again.
I can start. I mean,
Okay.
I'm kind of, I feel like a stalker because I'm just, I can't use any of this right now, but I'm just, I'm in a big project. As soon as it's done, I'm hoping that I'll be able to start implementing this. So knowing what's available helps me figure out what sorts of improvements I would be able to make to the form and implement. So, you know, this is all great. I don't think that I'll do the dynamic um, data connections. That really doesn't float my boat, but this other stuff, I can see how management would be excited about some of that.
Wonderful. Wonderful to hear, Donald. Thank you. Okay, so can we call on Alicia?
Yeah, of course. I'm really excited for be able to generate the PDF. Our current forms print horribly and pull up horribly, so this would be a huge improvement for a lot of things and a lot of uses I could see in our future.
Thanks. What about the Authy technique? Do you think that could be useful to one of your forms as well?
Yeah, most definitely.
Thank you. And next is Caroline.
Yeah, I think I'll be able to use all of the techniques that you demoed today. The other comment I wanted to make is that your documentation and your starter forms are amazing and make it so easy to go through step by step and do this stuff after this training class is over. So I really appreciate how well you've documented all of this.
Thank you. Thanks, Caroline. I really appreciate that comment. Kirby and I both work hard on preparing these labs. Actually, it's been revised every time we have classes like this, and for this training class, we revised the course agenda to make it really simplified, and we included all of the most requested commands that our customers are using these days. So yeah, thanks for that comment, Caroline. Next is Kathy.
Caroline, I really like the documentation. And I could definitely see using the PDF and setting up the Authy app on my cell phone. Also can explore that as well. So thank you for this great training.
Thank you. I'm still having trouble hearing your audio, but thanks for your comments. And regarding your question earlier, we're going to research about that using render form in list forms, and maybe you have some workflow related stuff in your form, so we need to take the question offline. Hopefully we can get back to you on that. And next is Emma.
Hi, yeah, I really liked the generate PDF. I was really interested in the file attachment uploads because we do have quite a few very large forms. So I'm really interested in kind of reducing their size and the faster loading that you were showing through doing that. I thought the Authy was really interesting. Unfortunately, I wouldn't really be able to say yay or nay to it, I believe, due to security concerns. We don't have any outside SharePoint users at all, so I don't think we'd ever be giving access to people in this way. But it was really interesting to see it work, and it kind of makes me excited to think that there might be other stuff that could work through an API this way. So I really enjoyed seeing it in action.
Thanks. Good to know that you're excited to use the render form commands in your forms and reduce the size of your forms.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that. So
yeah. Thanks, Emma. Sam, do you have any comments? I think that your first name is Shebas. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, this is great. I mean, it's amazing. I'll be able to use everything in there. It's amazing.
Thank you. Thanks for your comments, and thanks for being here.
Yeah.
And the next is Shane.
I've seen all of these techniques before, but I actually have Don working on a form for me right now that I could see using the Authy thing with moving forward, and so that's pretty exciting. I've been hesitant to do it in the past because we have most of our people on SharePoint, but we're actually trying to get rid of some of the user costs that we're incurring right now, so I can see how that's going to be super helpful.
Wonderful. Thanks to know that, Shane. I know you've worked in a lot of info platforms, so I'm sure that the Authy XCP is really easy to add in your forms. So I guess that's about it. That's the end of our day 3 class. We're going to have the recording available again for viewing, hopefully soon. And we're going to send you the day 4 package again tomorrow morning. Thanks again, and thanks Kirby for all the effort. Great job. Thank you. Thanks everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.